Alright, so I'm back at it again, and this time we're taking a look at the cheapest monitor I have ever reviewed. That's right, this monitor is a 1440p 165Hz display, and it's coming in at just $186 after some discounts. Now, I do want to disclose this was sent to me, but I am going to be going in raw regardless. So let's figure out, is this actually worth its cheap price, or is it garbage? Well, in order to find out, first we gotta go over the specs, and like I mentioned, this is a 165Hz 27-inch 16:9 VA panel with a PPI of 108.8, a contrast ratio reported of 4,000:1, allegedly a 1 millisecond response time. It does appear to support G-Sync and FreeSync. Allegedly, it supports HDR, and it has viewing angles of 178 degrees. And of course, it does have base mount compatibility. The stand does everything you would expect it to do. And in terms of ports, it has DC, USB, HDMI, 2 display ports, and a headphone jack. So everything that you would expect. Now, originally this came in at $300. It's discounted at $240, and it has an additional $30 off to bring it to $210. But then I actually got sent a coupon code, which I'll flash to you guys on screen, which if you use this at checkout, will bring it all the way down to $185.99. So that is unbelievably cheap, and it's absolutely ridiculous to see these specs at this price. But the question is, does it perform? Let's go ahead and find out. And first up, we have color calibration and accuracy. Now, as you can see here, it does ship a little bit more blue than it should at 8500K, and it doesn't give you a whole lot of options to change it. So the best that I could do was 7188K. It is going to be a little bit inaccurate, and I can't even fully color balance this thing, though I was able to create an ICC profile that should help considerably. And in fact, after installing the ICC profile, in terms of gamut coverage, you got 98.5% sRGB, 71.4% Adobe RGB, and 74.2% DCI-P3. In terms of gamut volume, I got 104.8% sRGB, 72.2% Adobe RGB, and 74.2% DCI-P3. So decent, though I would like to see a little bit better. Now, in terms of the brightness, I'll tell you guys right up front, this is not an HDR monitor. I know they say it's HDR, but this is definitely lacking a lot of features that I would consider to be necessary for an HDR monitor. So I'm just going to be testing this in SDR, as I advise nobody enable the HDR mode. That being said, it did come in last with 334 nits in a 10% window, and it also wasn't very impressive with the 100% window coming in with 350 nits. Now, in terms of the peak brightness in Battlefield 1, I also saw a maximum of 357 nits here. So yeah, it's not going to be real impressive when it comes to the brightness. And if you're wondering about overclocking, no, that is not going to be an option. Now, in terms of the total system latency, here I was also a little bit disappointed, because it did come in at 38.6 milliseconds of total system latency. And I redid this many times because I found this number to be a little bit higher than what I was expecting. And nope, that does seem to be the case, which is very strange considering their other monitor, that's the 34-inch one at 165Hz, had just 28.3 milliseconds. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but yeah, it is going to have a little bit higher latency than the 34-inch version. Now, in terms of the power draw, it comes in at just 41 watts, so that's very good there. But in terms of the UFO, and this is something you guys are definitely going to want to pay attention to, and I consider it to be the most important part of the review, what does the motion performance look like? Well, unfortunately, when it comes to a black background, it doesn't fare too well, and that's likely due to them using a cheap VA panel. Now, as you can see, the OLED G8 to the right is almost like a screenshot, because that's going to be a 175Hz OLED panel, which has no issues with smearing whatsoever. And then to the right of that, you can see the cheap Acer 240Hz monitor, which is doing a little bit better, but overall is still not too great. But as you can see, even on a high overdrive setting, which I did group these up in low, medium, and high overdrive settings, even on the highest one, it's still not doing too good on those black backgrounds, though it was able to clean it up considerably on the lighter background. Now, if you're wondering about the finish, viewing angles, and uniformity, it is using a semi-matte finish. I'd love to see glossy, but realistically, guys, at this price point, you're just gonna have to get what you get. In terms of viewing angles, it actually was very, very good, and the uniformity also didn't seem to have any major issues. Now, I also didn't see any G-Sync flickering, which is great to see at this price point. And in terms of any other issues, I didn't really notice anything other than, again, the dark level smearing that you're gonna be seeing. So overall, do I recommend this monitor? And that's a good question, because this is a $186 1440p 165Hz monitor. And that is just absolutely ridiculous value. So I think what I'm going to say is, if you're going to be buying this for a second monitor, or maybe you're on a really tight budget, I would actually recommend it because, again, it's just so dang cheap. However, if you're looking to get into competitive gaming or something like that, between the extra latency as well as the poor motion performance, then this is not going to be the right choice for you.